This is Ryan Byrnes Writes, and I'm Ryan Byrnes. Queen Elizabeth II reigned as the Queen of England for just short of 71 years, making her the longest-serving British monarch in history. Her recent death in 2022 rocked the world, but also led to a resurgence of interest in her life, particularly her love for her iconic corgi, Susan. Today on the show, we're going to hear from Eliza Knight, a USA Today bestselling author, about her new book, The Queen's Faithful Companion, which tells the story of the young Queen Elizabeth and her prized corgi. Thank you for joining today, Eliza. It's great to chat.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank
Yeah.
you for inviting me. I love talking about books with other people interested in books and publishing, so this is great.
Awesome. Could you start off by giving us a quick summary of The Queen's Faithful Companion and let us know about how it came to be?
Sure.
Yeah.
So The Queen's Faithful Companion is a historical fiction novel. It's part biographical fiction. So basically what that means is like people that really lived, I get to explore their lives and tell their story. So there's three points of view in the book. There's a young Queen Elizabeth. She's actually a princess when the book starts out. Then there is the keeper of the Queen's corgis, which is an actual job, or it was an actual job. And that character is fictionalized. She's based on a couple of different people that actually had that job, and I kind of just melded them into one fictional character. And then my favorite part is there's a third point of view, and that's from Susan, who is the corgi that was gifted to Elizabeth on her 18th birthday by her father. So
Oh,
yeah, I just was kind of like researching what book I wanted to do next. And I had recently been to London and, this was in 2022, I think. So um, uh, there was corgis everywhere, like all the little shops that I went to, and obviously like the Queen and everything like that. So I thought, well, that would be really fun to write about, but I don't know if they'll let me do it the way I want. So I just quickly wrote up like a little pitch and I sent it to my agent, and she was like, well, this sounds really fun. I just don't know if they'll go for a dog point of view. And I was like, well, let's just check. And my editor loved it. She, in fact, said it sounded really charming. And so I was really surprised and excited that they let me write from the dog's point of view. And I think it turned out really well.
nice. Yeah, I think everybody loves books about dogs.
I think so
Um,
too. I love them.
yeah,
So,
yeah. There's Marley and Me, and then there's books
yes.
from the point of view of dogs. I think it
Mhm.
was The Art of Racing in the Rain. That
That
one.
is such a good book. And
Yeah.
I like the dog's purpose too.
What was it like writing from the point of view of a dog? What were the different challenges in that? How did you make it come across as believable? Yeah,
So I had to do a lot of research about dogs. I mean, I have dogs. I've always had dogs.
yeah.
So I kind of knew what it was like to be a dog like lover and owner and have a companion, but to actually think like a dog was a little different. So I actually watched a lot of documentaries and read a couple of different books on how dogs' minds work. And so when I would sit down and write the chapters, I had to really make sure that I was thinking from the perspective of a dog. Like they wouldn't necessarily know what things are. So she looks at things much differently than a human person would. But the point of Susan too was to really come at the book from like an emotional standpoint. And so I wanted her to kind of be really like her theme was a lot about like memory and the senses, like how we remember things from certain like smells or touch or the sound of something. So she comes at the book from kind of like a really different perspective than what I'm used to, but it was really fun to explore. And it also got to be like I got to do some funny things like her chasing a bird and like going after squirrels, and or like she had a thing in the book where anytime she didn't like what Prince Philip would say, she would sneeze, like just like silly stuff like that. But then she could also sense things underneath. So, if Elizabeth wasn't feeling good about something, she kind of understood like that she wasn't feeling well. Or, when the king got sick, she could smell the sickness and different things like that. So it was just really it was really fun. And in fact, I had so much fun doing it. The book I just finished this past December, which is going out on submission shortly also has the point of view of a dog, but I can't say anything else about it. I just
Ooh,
feel like I found like a niche that I really like.
wow. Yeah. So, do you have a dog yourself?
Yeah, I have two dogs, Lady Belle and Merida. Lady Belle is in Newfoundland. She's here beside me. She's always next to me. And then Merida is a half Newfoundland, half lab mix, and they are the sweetest things. They're very um, funny. And also, our Newfoundland has like a very stubborn personality. You can actually see the way her mind works. If I say, like, hey, do you want dinner? She'll be like, not that dinner. Like, I'll take the apple that you're eating though. And she's just, I just love them. Yeah. A
Oh,
little bit dog obsessed.
oh, nice. What surprised you the most when you were researching for this book?
So there was a couple things that surprised me a lot. One is just a historical fact about Elizabeth and her corgi, and that is that when she was leaving for her honeymoon, she had one of her staff members sneak the corgi into the car, hidden under blankets, so that no one would know it was there. Her parents, Philip, nobody knew this dog was there. And then when her and Philip got in the car, she was like, "Surprise! I'm bringing the dog on the honeymoon." So I thought that was really cute, and also just showed how much she loved her dog. She didn't even want to be apart from her for 1 second. And then the other thing I found really surprising is just a fact about dogs, and it's that dogs know at least 200 words. And I knew that they understood like certain commands, but I thought it was more like 10 or 20 words, like sit, walk, you know, dinner or something like that. But 200 is quite a lot. So I found that to be really interesting. And now I'm like talking a lot more to my dogs, and I kind of wonder if they understand what I'm saying. Probably not, but at least I feel like we're communicating a little better.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So this has been a very busy year for you. I see that in addition to this book, you also have Can't We Be Friends coming out, and it seems like you also released another historical fiction and another two historical romance novels. So how do you manage working on multiple books in the same year? Seems like a lot to balance.
It is a lot to balance. I live by my planner and by schedules, and I do work full time as a writer. So, fortunately, able to sit at my computer 5 days a week. I try to take off weekends unless I'm on a deadline, and then there's absolutely no time boundaries. Um, but I do have a lot of time during the day to work on my writing since that's what I'm focusing on. And this year in particular is, like I mentioned earlier, when we were chatting, a little bit tough with two big books coming out. That's not the norm for me. It's usually just one. So I'm going to be even more busy with all the promotion and stuff. But as far as balancing the writing, I've tried to write more than one book at the same time. I cannot do it. It's too much because you're diving really deep into the character and developing their story. And uh, most of the books I write are different eras. So my romances are mostly medieval or Regency, and then my historical fictions are all different sorts of years. So even the way they speak and like the different terminology and everything is totally different. So I can't write at the same time, but I can say work on whatever current manuscript I'm writing in the morning, and then in the afternoon, after I've had some time to take a break from it, I can work on like edits or um, plotting or research for another book. So it kind of works out like that. So for example, right now, I just finished another book that I was telling you about. I can't tell you exactly what it is yet, but the other one with the dog. Um, so I just finished that, and now I'm plotting a new book and working on revisions of that one, and then obviously working on promoting the Queen's Faithful Companion and Can't We Be Friends. So there's everything's kind of just like going on all at once, but in an orderly way, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and also the romance novels don't take as long to write. It's just about 8 weeks or so. So and I only do two of those a year. So the rest of the year is devoted towards the historical fiction, and they're all at like various stages. So like Can't We Be Friends, even though that releases in March of this year, I started working on it in 2019 with my co-author Denny. So everything's just has like different stages. And the only way I can say that I remain sane and that I keep it all um, scheduled out is that I like meticulously figure out what I'm doing each day. And I will say, like, okay, today is chapter one that I'm starting this new book, and I know exactly how much I'm writing on it until when I'm going to finish it. So I just plot that whole schedule out in the beginning, and then it works out.
Yeah. If you had to choose, would you rather produce like a whole ton of books in 1 year, or would you rather just focus on one for the sake of marketing and publicity? Because I feel like it's difficult to do publicity for multiple books at once. But,
It
yeah.
really is difficult, and, I used to, sort of feel like I was on a hamster wheel, and when I was only writing romance, it was, like, 4 to 6 books a year, and that was really way too much, which is why I shrunk that down to 2, and then so my goal was to just do 2 romances a year and 1 historical fiction a year, and that feels, like, pretty comfortable for me, um, because I do write fast, but the historical fictions take a lot longer. I mean, it's at least 6 months of just writing on those, but it's a lot of pre-work beforehand. So each book takes like a whole year to produce from me. Um, Whereas like the romances, I've written over 80, and so there's not as much research involved with that anymore because I've been doing it for so long. And that's just writing about the relationships. So those are a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I
I,
definitely never want to go back to that hamster wheel at all.
yeah. Do you think it affects the sales of the book if you're trying to promote two at the same time, or if you're just trying to promote one?
So for the romance versus the historical
Yeah.
fiction, no,
Yeah.
because it's two different audiences. So I've not seen any issue with that. I am very curious to see what happens this year with two big historical fiction books, and they're pretty close together. So one releases in March and one releases in June, and that's a lot of promotion, but it's also a lot of books from me for that genre because most readers of historical fiction aren't. Reading as much as say like a romance novel reader, so they don't care if you put out one a month, but historical fiction readers generally will read like one of your books a year. So i
Okay.
am i am curious to see how that works out. The only thing I'm hoping is that with the Queen's Corgi book, that it like draws in a different audience of people who are like animal lovers
Yeah.
versus Can We Be Friends is a story about the friendship with Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe. So that's like completely different audience as well, like celebrity type books. So we'll see. I am curious, but it's a really good, valid question because it's generally something that's been on my mind. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point about the two books appealing to different audiences. It
yeah,
sounds like you're on a dog themed streak right now, because it sounds like you got a new book coming out about a dog too.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, this has been Eliza Knight, USA Today bestselling author of The Queen's Faithful Companion. It publishes on June 11th, 2024 with William Morrow. It can be bought wherever books are sold. Thanks for chatting, Eliza.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.